At Northfield Mount Hermon, a prestigious prep school in Massachusetts, much of Peter Weiss's job is spent in the library. But there are times when the school archivist turns into an adventurer in search of a holy grail.
This is the sort of place you'd hide something valuable. All right, I think we want to go around the other way. Sorry. An archivist's work is never done. Oh my gosh. Let me just take a quick look down here. Can't wait to tell my debate team about this tonight. Found it! I found it! Here it is! You need to get down here and see this.
From this spot on November 20th, 1965, this extraordinary photograph was taken. On that day, head coach Jim Smith brought his visiting Deerfield Academy football team to Mount Hermon to face their arch rival. The home team was riding a 17-game winning streak, and with a win would conclude a perfect season. Deerfield raced to an early 20-0 lead. But their momentum came to a halt in the second quarter when a referee approached Smith.
He came over to me and he was pointing like this, and I said, "What the heck did we do now?" I didn't know what that signal was. He walked up and said, "Jim, look it." And I looked behind, and the science building was over here.
There was smoke coming up from the roof. No flames, but there was smoke coming from the attic of the building.
Jay Ward is in his 40th year teaching science at Northfield Mount Hermon. But 50 years ago, he was a student here who watched his science building, Silliman Laboratory, catch fire.
I was a member of the volunteer fire department, and we hung out by the fire engine, and whenever the NMH team scored, the Mount Hermon team scored, we sounded the siren. And so, when it became obvious that the building was on fire, all of us in the fire department followed the truck over to the building, and we didn't watch any more of the football game. And there comes the fire engine. I might have been on that truck.
Well, I'm sure it was something like this.
Jim Van Fleet was on the field. He was a senior co-captain for Mount Hermon.
Of course, it was a disaster for everybody, and there was a bit of a pall for us. Our minds were, oh my God, what happened to that biology exam that I took this week? Am I gonna have to retake that exam? I can remember officials ultimately saying, we have to continue the game for the safety of all the rest of the people. For us, it was sort of odd.
There was 5,000 people at the game. For crowd control purposes, if the game had been stopped, where would all of these people, they couldn't have just all left campus. There are all kinds of reasons why you wanted not just the people to stay in the same place, but you wanted their cars, which were parked all over the grassy area to the north of the football field. They probably wanted to keep the roads open for firefighting support.
50 years after they helped battle the blaze, the nearby Gill Fire Department proudly displays the fire photo in their building. And they still have the call sheet from November 20th, 1965.
They arrived at 1:50 p.m. at the school to fight the fire.
We went down at halftime. We walked down here, and you could look over and smoke, black smoke. By the time we came out, big flames, big yellow flames coming out the roof.
There they go. Yeah, I remember it that way and thinking, my goodness, this is serious, and the fire company's got here too late.
Oh, there we go. Wow. That thing is raging. Got to be 40-foot flames right there.
This is amazing. I know I've seen those flames before in my mind's eye from 50 years ago, but I'd never quite seen the flames so up close.
Wow. You know, this is tremendous.
At one time, I was on this hose. That was fun. It took 4 of us to hold the thing in place.
The fire raged on, and so did the game.
Were you surprised that you kept playing that day?
Well, I was, but it was a very, very big game, you know.
We're athletes, we're competitors, we're right in the middle of a game. We want the game to go on.
And a father, there to take pictures of his son's last high school game, did just that.
So here I am, I was number 64. He was a journalist. He was not a photographer. He's just a dad with a camera. He happened to be in the right place at the right time, and he knew what to do with it quickly. He went home that night realizing that he had something very special and went and put it on the wire services. If you're a professional photographer, you want to have attribution for this. He put it on the wire service without attribution. He didn't even put his name on it.
Robert Van Fleet, who passed away in 1999, made sure that any proceeds from the photo, which weren't many, went to Mount Herman.
He didn't seek to profit from it. Dad just wanted the picture, which he thought was special, to just have it go far and wide.
Which it did. Spreading around the world like, well, like wildfire.
Versions of this image appeared in things like Soviet Life, which used it to try to talk about the degenerate capitalist mentality that people in the United States are more interested in watching a football game and in saving their building. It was the AP Sports Photo of the Year for 1965.
So here it is, this guy who is extraordinarily literary, becomes known far and wide for being a photographer, which he wasn't at all.
I usually was the one taking the pictures when I was on hand.
Celeste Van Fleet's husband may not have been a professional photographer, but with a camera or a pen, he knew how to tell a story.
This is a letter to Howard Jones, president of Northfield Mount Herman Schools. It was written just after the fire. Dear Howard, when after his momentary dismay, the referee blew his whistle and cranked the game back into action, the rather perverse possibilities of the scene dawned on me. I took perhaps 20 shots at varied settings, either while play was in progress or just as it was beginning, hoping thus to produce the greatest number of visible faces in the Deerfield stands. It worked, and I had a once-in-a-lifetime shot. Gratefully yours, Robert S. Van Fleet.
The final score was Deerfield 20, Mount Herman 14. The home team's 17-game winning streak was done. So was Silliman Laboratory. And in the near future, the current science building will be replaced.
Well, the science department was lobbying for a new building, and we constructed this shirt. It says NMH Science on the front, and on the back it says this: entropy happens, it's the law, second law of thermodynamics, and we thought maybe it was time for this building to go away and a new building to come. The plan is to build it in roughly that same location, yes.
So a science building will go up on the same ground where Silliman once stood. And if one man has his way, a surviving part of the old structure will live on inside the new one.
There is one important remain, and that is a piece of granite that says Silliman that stood over the entrance of the building, and it was taken down to fields below campus.
Is it something we could film, or?
It's something you could, if we can go and try to find it.
Okay.
Found it! This is, in some ways, I guess, the burial ground of Silliman Laboratory. So there's laboratory upside down, and there's Silliman, right side up, but underneath laboratory. This has spent 50 years out here. This is very cool, but it's that's like some kind of animal. It's always exciting to find something that you knew was out there that was sort of legendary, and but that you'd never seen. It's great to see it, but it doesn't make my heart go pitter-patter the way that photograph. Every time you look at it, your heart goes pitter-patter.
Well, as I look back on it, it's a wonderful part of my family's history. It's something that is often talked about at holiday meals. And so there's always a conversation of what else has gone on with the fire photograph.
Good heavens, this really would have stopped the show. But it didn't.
My reaction when I first saw the photo was, wow, I was there, and what a wonderful photo of such a tragic event.
I just say, wow, I was part of that. That's one of the great pictures in sports.
If you're from around here, you can imagine Carlton Fisk hitting his home run. You can imagine Bobby Orr, airborne, scoring a Stanley Cup winning goal. But for us, we always thought that this was the greatest sports photograph ever taken. This is the body. This whole photograph, that's the spirit. And I take the spirit. I'll take the spirit. You can have the body.